Hello, Amanda here, and welcome to my YouTube channel, So Sweet Treats. And thank you so much for purchasing the dried sourdough starter Ida. And if you didn't purchase it, this is a lesson on how to rehydrate sourdough starter, whether you got it from a friend, a family member, or if you bought it from me in my Etsy shop. So let's get started. So I'm going to teach you how to go from these dried sourdough chips to a gorgeous loaf of bread. Just look at that crumb. And it's super easy. Don't be intimidated by it. In 6 easy steps, you'll have an active sourdough starter that you're going to have ready to be baking bread. Pretty much every day you're going to want to bake bread. So just to give you a little visual of what your sourdough starter is going to look like in a few days' time, it's going to look like this. This is the original Ida. And look how active and bubbly she is. She is all ready to bake bread. So that is what your goal is, and I promise you, you will get there. Just give it time and do not give up, and your sourdough starter will look just as bubbly as Ida. So to get your sourdough starter, the dried version, hydrated, it's really easy. This is the video for the first step, and it's super simple. I just want to go over the materials that you're going to need to feed, to hydrate, and what you're going to need on a daily basis to get your sourdough starter active and bubbly. So the first things first, you're going to need your dried sourdough chips. So this is about 1 ounce or about 28 grams of dried sourdough chips. And let me tell you, when I dry her out, she is at the active bubbly stage. So she looks like this when I put her out to dry. So that sounds weird, I know. But when I dry her, she is at the most active, bubbly stage. So you got to know that you're getting the best sourdough starter out there. Next, you're going to need a glass jar. I recommend a quart-sized glass jar with a wide mouth. Now, the reason being is your sourdough starter is going to rise up and drop down. And you are going to want plenty of room for her or him to rise and grow and then to deflate. So anything smaller than a quart-sized jar, you're going to risk overflowing, and then you're going to have a big mess, and you're going to end up throwing away more sourdough starter than you want to. So grab a nice big jar, and a wide mouth is important so you have plenty of room to scoop flour in, pour out the discard, and stir it up. I find a quart-sized glass mason jar with a wide mouth perfect. Next thing, you're going to want a special cover to go over it. You don't want to use the lids that come with the glass jar. You want a cotton cover, pretty much, so that there's room for it to breathe, because it needs oxygen to grow. Just like everything needs oxygen to grow, so does your sourdough starter. So listen in the description. I have a link to my Etsy shop for jar covers that fit perfectly over here in a variety of patterns and colors. And they're machine washable. You can put it over top of it, throw in the washing machine if need be, and just keep reusing it. If you don't want to purchase one of them, that's okay. You can also use a square of cotton fabric that makes sure you fits over there and drapes over the top with some on the side. Or you can just use plastic wrap. The thing with plastic wrap is you probably will have to replace it every once in a while versus cotton fabric or a jar cover you could just throw in the washing machine. You also are going to need some rubber bands to secure it on top and to put along the side to measure the growth. You're going to need, of course, your sourdough chips. You're going to need some warm water, and I also recommend, but it's not necessary, a kitchen scale. So with kitchen scales, and even in my directions, I do provide grams, ounces, and cups for hydrating and baking your bread. But when you use a scale, you're going to get a more consistent loaf. So if, I say you need 250 grams of water or 500 grams of flour, you're going to get 500 grams of flour, 250 grams of water using a kitchen scale. Versus if I say 4.5 cups of flour, some days it might be more, some days it might be less, depending on how you scoop things out. So I definitely recommend getting a kitchen scale. I have this one linked in the description of the video. And it's great. It does it in grams, ounces, and I think that's about it. And it's great. It's really probably necessary in the long run, especially when you're going to be baking bread over and over again if you want a more consistent loaf of bread each and every time. And that's pretty much it. And then a rubber spatula. And that's it. Start off with a glass mason jar. As you get more advanced into your sourdough journey, you can upgrade into a sourdough jar that has a special oxygenated lid that helps oxygen flow. And that's it. So I'm going to zoom you in and let's get started and get ready, guys, because you're on your way to baking sourdough bread. And I promise you, you're going to be addicted to it and you're going to want to bake bread every day. Now remember, this is step 1 of the hydrating series. So let's get started. So here is step 1 of hydrating your sourdough. And I just want to give you a close-up of the active hydrator sourdough that I have. So like I said, this is Ida. She's super bubbly. You can see her in there. She's all ready to bake. And that's what's going to happen with your sourdough starter. I promise she will get to that point. And then this is the loaf of bread that I made. This is all I have left of the loaf of bread that I made because my kids gobbled it all up. So this is what you're going to get to. I promise you'll get there also. So first things first, you're going to grab your glass mason jar. Like I said, a quart size. Make sure it's glass, nothing plastic, stainless, or anything like that. I like to put it on my kitchen scale, and I'm doing it in grams. And you're going to get your chips that you got, and you're just going, and they're going to be in a fancier packaging than this. You're just going to dump it into your jar, and you want to just double check the weight of your chips is that it's 28 grams or about 1 ounce. And then to that, mine's a little less. So I'm just going to add, I just have a little bit left over here. So I'm just going to add a little bit to it, but you want to make sure that it's 1 ounce or 28 grams. And I probably gave you a little bit more just in case, you know, things settle during shipping. So to that, you're just going to pour in your water. This is warm water. You don't want it scorching hot, but Ida, or whatever you name your sourdough starter, she likes it warm. So this is 2 ounces or 57 grams of warm water. Just pour that in there. And that's it. You're going to grab your cover. I just have a simple cloth cover that I'm going to put over the top with a rubber band. And I'm going to secure it down. And I'm going to let her sit on the counter for about 4 hours or overnight. Now, I know I put times in my directions, but it's really important that you pay more attention to the look, feel, and smell of your sourdough versus the time. So I put the times in there as a like ballpark figure to kind of just keep an eye on it, but it can take you less, it can take you more, all dependent on the temperature of your house or your kitchen or where you're doing your sourdough. If it's warmer, it's going to take less time. If it's colder, it's going to take more time. So just let this sit on your counter 4 hours or up to overnight, and it can even take a day. Just it doesn't have to rush the process. So just let her sit on your counter, and you'll notice when she's ready, the water will be absorbed, and you still might see a few little chunks of dried sourdough chips in there, but that's normal. So come back for step 2, the second video in this series, to see what we do next.